Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Michael Pokey Oz here. Now I've got a video to do today about Stellar Crown. I've been saying for a while I'm going to do one. And one thing I stay very clear of in the Pokemon card investing YouTube world is anything to do with any other content creators, as in negative things. I like to have positive interactions with people, but life's hard enough. We don't need to bring that into the digital space. So I steer clear. If anyone makes a video about me or comments about me negatively, water off a duck's back, it doesn't bother me. I stay out of it. I don't reply. I don't respond. But I have seen, and this is no gripe at anyone in particular, but I have seen a lot of videos sort of marking with titles and thumbnails about Stellar Crown being the next biggest investment in the Scarlet and Violet era. And the question that comes to my mind, like there's titles like, Stellar Crown, the next big thing, why we should all invest in Stellar Crown, why I've parked $5,000 into Stellar Crown. And it's like, the question I ask is, how do you come to that conclusion? Because I see it a bit differently, and that's what I'm going to go through in this video. Now, before we jump into the video, I just wanted to give a shout out to today's sponsor, which is the Shiny app. A lot of you guys have sent me emails and left comments in my videos down below about how clean and nice the app is to use. A little video up here for you to have a look at. You can add your full collection to the app, both singles and sealed. There's other TCGs on there as well. If you find something missing, shoot Cody an email. He'll add it on straight away. 15 years of coding experience. This is a really clean, nice app to use. I've loaded my full collection into there. You can give a nice 360 view of the cards. You can add whether they're PSA graded in a 10, 9, 8, BGS, etc., CGC, and also add all your sealed product in. So it's a really nice app to use. I'll leave a link down in the description of this video to grab it for yourself off the Apple Store or the Play Store. Anyway, on to the topic at hand, Stellar Crown. Now, just to run through the set a little bit, okay, there's 142 cards in total plus secret rares, so it's not a massive set. It's not going to be as big as our next upcoming set, which is Surging Sparks. Now, I want to make one premise, and the premise based on the question, which is, how do people come to that conclusion that it's the next big investment? Well, I don't really know how they're coming to that conclusion because, like I said, I see it differently. And I think maybe this is where the confusion comes from. There's a big difference between something being an extremely future-proof investment and something that's popular right now. If it's popular right now, that's going to put some upward pressure onto box prices. Now, you could argue the old saying, and I use this saying as well, that if it's popular now, it's going to be popular in the future. Well, one of the reasons I think Stellar Crown is really, really popular now is because we don't really have anything else. Shrouded Fable, which wasn't a booster box set, was relatively underdone. The release of it was, a bit of a mismatch, and, there was product not hitting when it should have hit. The set has been touted as an extremely weak set, and I don't think there's any argument against that. The chasers aren't overly fun to pull. I think Twilight Masquerade has sort of had its time in the sun. The Greninja is still a fun chase card for people to chase, and it's still being opened. But there's nothing else for us to open until Surging Sparks comes out in November. So as a result, I think the limelight that's being shined onto Stellar Crown is coming from the fact that there's just nothing else. And people just want to open new Pokemon card sets because it's the new shiny thing. That's just the way it is. It's the new toy in the crib that people want to play with. And that's why Stellar Crown is getting huge amounts of attention at the moment. I think for a set to be super popular down the track, I'm going to get into some more points around this, we need to have more chase cards. So for people to say that, Stellar Crown is the next big investment, like I said, we see all these titles saying, it's the greatest investment Scarlet and Violet's seen so far. I'm pumping heaps of money into it, etc., etc. Again, just ask yourself why. Why is it a good investment? And here's some evidence for it. I'm going to go into the set list soon just to talk you through, the top hits and the sort of retraction in value that we'd expect to see when a set first comes out. But here's just my first argument as to why I don't think it's the next big thing and why I think it's just popular at the moment because there's nothing else. First one being, and this is probably the main argument for the whole thing, there's actually only 12 cards in the whole set over $10. Now, typically when a set first comes out, that's when the cards hold their highest value. Because it's new, there's not much supply in the market. As more and more gets opened, we see more and more chase cards hit the market and more hit eBay. And as supply increases, it puts some downward pressure on prices unless demand is there to match it. Like, that's simple economics 101, isn't it? So there's actually only 12 cards over $10 in Stellar Crown. Now, I get it. It's a smaller set. There's not as many illustration rares or special illustration rares. So therefore, it's a bit hard to compare it to some of the bigger sets. But still, here's another one. This is probably the big kicker. There's only 14 cards over $5. It's actually a real shame, I think, here that, maybe something like a Stellar Crown, given it wasn't a mixed match of multiple Japanese sets and only one, didn't just come out as a holiday set. And something like a Japanese 151, which was, of course, transferred into Scarlet and Violet 151, that should have got a booster box. Man, I'm dirty that didn't get a booster box. Imagine if 151 had booster boxes. Oh, we can only dream, can't we? Anyway, so 12 cards over $10 and 14 cards over $5. And keep in mind, the set at the moment is the hot thing. There is cards that are playable. It's the booster box to open. It's getting massive, massive amounts of orders on all, face-to-face stores that I've talked to and online stores. So it's the it thing. People want to open it. But don't confuse that with it being investable, because there's only 12 cards over $10 and only 14 cards over $5. And again, like I said, it's not the biggest set, but let's compare it to something which I think most people would say is a pretty middle of the road so far Scarlet and Violet set, but maybe has potential to actually surprise some people down the track, and that is the set Paradox Rift. To compare the amount of the over $10 chase cards and over $5 chase cards, keep in mind 12 and 14 for Stellar Crown. Paradox Rift has 16 cards over $10, and I get it, okay, it's got more special illustration rares, but here's the big one, 40 cards over $5. When you're doing a box break or a pack break in the future and people are buying into this, there's a few really, really important things. And that's one of the main reasons, I think in the future that boxes will hold a bit of value. Of course, there's other reasons. They'll be collectibles in their own right. People will want to open them themselves to try and pull big chase cards. But those things all aligned all sort of come into the one thing, which is we need to have strong chase cards and then strong depth of chase cards. And I just don't think Stellar Crown being a really small sort of English booster box set, it doesn't really have that. And to talk you through a couple more things to add to that argument, just a real quick one, by the way, to summarise home that point, Evolving Skies, 31 cards over $10 and 46 cards over $5. I know it's the best English set we've seen since Team Up, but just to give you another comparison there. So let's look at the top cards in the set, right? So the main chase card, and don't get me wrong, the artwork in this is amazing, okay? The Squirtle and Bulbasaur are beautiful Pokemon cards. In a PSA 10, having those sit in your collection will be something really, really special. And, cards like the Galvantula and the Terapagos, which are both, Gen 9 Pokemon, that sort of rainbow border effect is also, imagine having one of those in a PSA 10. They are good, they're good looking cards. And I think that new sort of, border is getting people a little bit excited as well. But to keep all those things in mind. So the top hit, which is that Terapagos, $113. It's a 22% reduction since it came out. The Lacey, which is a really nice special illustration trainer in there, $48. The Squirtle has also seen a reduction. It's currently sitting at $38.48 on TCG Player, and it is also, like the Terapagos, had a 22% reduction in price since the set launched. Now, it's just the general rule of thumb, isn't it? When a set comes out, of course, prices are going to be at their highest for singles, because there's some people that haven't even got their hands on those singles yet. Like, they might have opened 3 or 4 boxes and can't get one. So they're going to jump onto eBay or TCG Player and buy one and spend more on it to get one. As more and more supply hits the market and they're more readily available, like I said, it puts downward pressure on cards pretty quickly, unless the opposite happens, where we get this massive community sentiment which causes huge demand for a card like the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade. So some other hits, the Hydrapple, which is another Gen 9 Pokemon, $35.13. Now, I did make a video just about this, and this is one of the things that I like about the whole Scarlet and Violet era, is most of the chase cards are actually Gen 9 Pokemon, or a lot of the chase cards are Gen 9 Pokemon. Of course, we've got Charizards in there, and the 151, we're not going to have any Gen 9 because it's all Gen 1, but you get the point. A lot of the chase cards are Gen 9, which I really like. I like that they're trying to hone into Gen 9. However, we would all love to see, of course, the throwback to the Gen 1, 2, 3, 4 Pokemon, and I think that's what's missing when it comes to making, these sets I suppose, pop off with chase cards. The Bulbasaur in there, like I already mentioned, is such a beautiful card at $31.17. The Briar at $28.07. Dash Bun, $24.94. Now, there's no way that card can hold a $25 price point, can it? I mean, I could be wrong, but for me, that's like a $12 card. So I think there's still some drop down to be had on the prices, because total set priced at the moment is $560, which for a set on release is actually relatively low. Now, two things could happen. One or two things could happen. This could drop even more, like I said, as more supply hits the market, or, demand for cards can pop up. It can happen. But at the moment, the set's total set value, even though it's a smaller set, it only just sits above something like a Paradox. Sorry, it just sits below Paradox Rift. It sits below Temporal Forces. It sits below Twilight Masquerade. So for people, I guess, to summarize home the point, for people to say this is the next big thing as a Pokemon card investment in the Scarlet and Violet era, just ask yourself why. Like, how does that conclusion come about? Because for me, it just isn't. It just sits as a middle of the road sort of booster box set that I'll pick up 2 booster boxes of, like I always do, one for display and one to put in the cupboard in case, it ever doubles in price and I can sell one off and it's like I've got the other one for free. A lot of people talk about that little strategy to be used, but I just don't see myself going all in on the set. Like, there's just not enough chase cards inside there. There's not enough depth of chase cards, and there's not enough big hits inside there. With that being said, the Squirtle and the Bulbasaur are beautiful. The Galvantula and the Terapagos with this new sort of rainbow border, they're really nice cards as well, and they look great sitting inside a PSA 10 slab. So there's good things to be said about this set, but I just don't think it's the next big investment. Can't wait for the rest or the second half of Surging Sparks. I'm so excited for that set. If the second half is big, that could well be the next big investment. The first half of Surging Sparks, which has come from Paradise Dragona, is extremely solid. It's not brilliant, it's extremely solid. And once we see that second half of it, that's when we'll get a really good gauge about how good an investment Surging Sparks will be. Anyway, that's my summary of Stellar Crown. I'm Michael, this is PokeOz, and I'll catch everyone next time.